Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and what an interesting day of Call of Duty we have just had once again. Yesterday the big storyline was Minnesota Rokkr versus OpTic Chicago. Stanley comes into the lineup for the first time, completely demolishes OpTic, one of the strongest teams in the entire game. Today the onus was on Los Angeles Thieves to prove they could do the same thing against on paper a relatively weaker team in the London Royal Ravens. That does not exactly go to plan. Very intrigued to hear your perspective on this in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Let's hop into things then. So first, it was just very interesting for a number of reasons. One of which was this, right? So Paulex and Venom, formerly on the Wester team that did so well early part of their season, they got the opportunity to battle up against each other. Paulex now on London, Venom of course on the Los Angeles Thieves. And it started off very interesting as we're going to look at here in just a second. Time for the Rook to make his debut. Los Angeles Thieves, hashtag all the good stuff. The squad is back to work. Let's get it rolling, right? And certainly Minnesota these last few days, I mean, we've heard them talk about even on the flank last night. I think Attach was saying that their scrims have been looking so good the last few days. Not necessarily the case for LA Thieves. Some teams, of course, take some time to warm up. And especially in some of the game modes, we discussed yesterday the fact that in Search and Destroy, typically it takes a little bit of time for you to actually get used to a new player into your lineup. But well, Minnesota certainly managed to do it quite well yesterday. Scump says Dallas is a glitch, I think talking about some host or whatever he was playing on. Not really sure why I put that in this video, but well, here we go regardless. Map number 1 went the Los Angeles Thieves way, and this was incredible, man. This was like a classic European choke, I suppose. To be honest, it was more of a clutch from the Thieves. It was checkmate hardpoint. Ravens went up massive early on. They had a really big lead, upwards of like 80 points in the middle of it. Kenny goes 39 in 26 with a 1.5 KT. But yeah, the Ravens can't quite close out on the P5, goes back to P1, and Thieves contest for just long enough to take it to P2, and then they hold that off, and it's 250 to 243. I mean, we saw another map very similar to this to finish off the day as well. And so yeah, you can kind of call it a choke from the Ravens, but at the end of the day, it was Thieves really stringing together a couple of nice hard points. They win the rotation, they hold on, and well, Kenny certainly helps them do it with a 1.5 KD. And the very first map for Venom wasn't great initially, but he really turned up towards the end of this map. I think at one point he was double negative, but towards the end he went on like a 5 spree, definitely clutched up for them. So showing some ice for sure. And on the other side, it's Zed and Dylan really putting on a show, right? And this is what we talked about. Dylan has not been good these last couple of years. We've just got to say it straight up as it is. But in Black Ops 4, he was one of the best SMGs in the entire game. And guess who was teaming alongside him? It was Zed. Maybe it's some sort of pacing issue or something that's gone on with Dylan these last couple of years. But with Zed alongside him, they both look like so much different players to what we've seen, well, in the last couple of seasons. And also, you know, in Challenge, for example, Zed earlier on this season. So both of them looking very, very strong. And well, Paulex doesn't have the greatest map right here, but he certainly does towards the latter half of the series. Game 1, as you can see, a massive comeback here from Los Angeles Thieves towards the middle part of the game. So fair play to them for getting the job done. And well, they closed it out when it mattered right to the very end. And well, Azuma says, love that. Venom comes out slow, but stays composed and turns up towards the end. London, stop, single, pushing. So certainly some mistakes. A level 5 breakdown. Panda calls it right here. But well, of course, a level 5 breakdown from London early on. When we get to the control, though, certainly a different story. So we go into the Search and Destroy. Once again, London looked pretty damn good in this one. Zed, I mean, goes massive. This nice little 1v2 right here, very reminiscent of that 1 versus 4 he got, I believe it was against United on what's the map, Gridlock, Search and Destroy, if you guys remember that one. But yeah, Zed picks up 3 on the flank, clutches the 1 versus 2. That takes them up 2-0 in the map, and they do enough to close it out once again. And honestly, like, I think it was 6-2 to the London Royal Ravens. And yeah, the Search and Destroy from LA Thieves really fundamentally not looking so great. Yesterday, Standy went like 13-4 in his very first map. You know, it's not to like hark on Venom or anything for not going 13-4 because you don't expect them to. And certainly in Search and Destroy, typically when a new player joins the team, you're expecting them to struggle a little bit and take a little bit of time to find their groove. But as Nameless says, a horrible Search and Destroy from Thieves. Sheesh, they had so many opportunities in so many rounds and they just completely blew it. And as Nadeshot says, of course, the owner of the team, I'm suiting back up. And well, Raiden expresses back to, you are a natural, you're straight up coming back. So Nadeshot certainly implying, okay, maybe he's clearly been watching this series. I mean, he's the owner of the team, and maybe thinking it's not so good. Of course, you've got to give the team a little bit more time to find their groove. But yeah, certainly you've got to look at yesterday against well, Rokkr versus OpTic and thinking, wow, what did they do with their new young blood? And you're now looking at this and you're thinking, okay, hang on a second. Was Temp the issue with this team? Can this one-man change be enough to fix this lineup? Pretty funny actually for Miles after London won the map 2. He like said that they were up 2-0 or something, so kind of putting out of his mind that well, incredible end to the map 1 that they had. It was indeed 1-1. This was interesting as well, as LA Thieves, as Kenny Bedford says, LA Thieves, I hear 2 Buck Thug Lord is doing guess descrims with FaZe, maybe give him a ring to get your Search and Destroy gear. Arcitys isn't too convinced about that one. And as Nameless says, look, major credit to London, takes a solid squad to capitalise on mistakes. No problem, I don't know if you saw, but I run a Royal Ravens skin in league play. I do this so my opponents see it and relentlessly chow me, thinking I'm a burger. I think they relentlessly chowed you because they see your gamer tag, say the Royal Ravens in reply, always some entertaining stuff on the timeline. And then we go into this crazy control, right? So Zed and Paul, Paul X, Zactadenia, just completely dominated this map. I couldn't believe what I was watching. This was the scoreboard in the control. I've honestly never seen a scoreboard like this. Zed has a 1.6, Dylan has a 2.75. Obviously the sample size is pretty small, not many kills, not many deaths, because it was, I think, the quickest control game we've ever seen in Call of Duty history. Venom goes double negative, and that's their best performance on the team. TJ 7 in 14. Kenny and Slasher combined for 6 in 24. How often do you see that? Just completely mauled, couldn't get out of the spawn. Paul X goes 16 in 3, just completely playing public matches. And they win the defenses, both the defenses incredibly quick, but the offense was like one of the most clinical offenses I think we've ever seen. And London actually break 100 Thieves' own record, Slasher and Kenny's own record from Black Ops 4 champs, where they beat Midnight in a 5 minutes 40 game. This was 5 minutes 36 from start to finish on Checkmate. So remarkably quick, and honestly just a complete collapse on Los Angeles Thieves. They looked completely lost in this one. The Royal Ravens are super hyped about it. They played phenomenally right here, but nowhere near the level you expect. Certainly control does require a lot of coordination and team pushes and such like this, so certainly you can imagine that a new team is going to be slower to pick that up. But just the comparison, the juxtaposition between yesterday, what Rokkr were capable of with their new man in the lineup, compared to what LA Thieves we saw today. The game 4 also was crazy close right here, but once again, Thieves, you really felt like they should have found a way to close this out. Ravens somehow clutch up on this hardpoint. Thieves really had a great chance to do so. They almost won the game over at P3. They head over to P4 to the street, and they just don't rotate quick enough. They don't really send all their forces over there quickly enough, and Ravens get into the back. They win a couple of key gunfights, and they close this out in an absolute craziness. 250 to 245, I believe it was in the end. Crazy stuff once again. Map 1 was 250, 243 the other way around. This time at London get the better of them, in a map that really you could say Thieves should have found their way to win. So they get demolished in the control. The Search and Destroy also they got demolished in. Both of the hardpoints were incredibly close, but they go 1-1 over the course of it, and Ravens go 2-0 in the season so far, in the stage so far in stage 2. Having not won a single series so far. Massive credit to London, right? I don't want to just bang on Los Angeles Thieves constantly. London looks great. They look much improved. The Zed and Dylan combo in the SMGs is really working. Clearly that is what they were lacking, because as soon as you can start getting performances out of Dylan, that's what's going to make this team top tier. And if it takes Zed to do it, and Zed dropping numbers as well, that is a scary thing for the competition. So where are Royal Ravens sitting in the power rankings right now? That is tough to say. But Thieves, certainly, you've got to look at this series and think, all right, hang on, question marks here, because at the end of the day, Minnesota looked so good yesterday with their new man in. Venom comes in here. It's not like he necessarily underperforms, but you can certainly say, does he fix their problems overnight? That's clearly not the case. Does he fix their problems in the long term? You can say maybe he's not the only issue, or Temp was not the only issue with this squad as it was formed. And as Method says, wow, Nameless is absolutely mind-blown. And at least Thieves aren't missing outside of the game. Slasher's throwing the darts straight to the L. Take Los Angeles Thieves. So incredible stuff. Not what I would have predicted coming into this stage, but here we certainly are. And the final series of the day that we certainly have to go through, because this was an interesting one as well, LAG versus the New York Subliners. And once again, we get some of these crazy hardpoint maps. We'll check this out in just a second. Game 1, though, was Checkmate Hardpoint. And this is a map that I'm not really sure you really want to challenge New York Subliners on. They seem to be very good at it. Honestly, early on, it was the team dominating. Diamond Con goes on a pretty crazy 5-streak, 6-streak, I believe, actually, to take over the game in the middle half of things. And they close this out 250 to 170, I believe. The Search and Destroy, though, does not go the way of the Subliners. As you can see, though, Game 1, 34 in 23 from a team to close this one out, plus 11 over the course of the map. Game 2, this was pretty incredible. I'm not really sure what happened here for the Subliners, because they were obviously trying to flank over towards this A side of the map, and aBeZy kind of gets caught in elbow. I'm not really sure how they didn't check this or didn't see him. He must have got crazy timing. I imagine the New York, all of their players decided to flank all the way around through P3, and maybe they looked at elbow and didn't quite get the timing to see him. So aBeZy kind of realizes what's happening, lays down here to wait for all the guys to come past, and I wonder if he could have played this differently. He gets 2 kills here, right? Which is certainly he gets his job done, but I do wonder maybe there's a parallel universe in which that somehow he lets them all run past. I'm not really sure. I imagine DiamondCon would have checked his right here, because if you're running through and all 3 of your teammates haven't looked to your right, you've got to look to your right just in case something's going on. But you can imagine that aBeZy somehow sneaks all behind 4 of these guys, guns 3 of them down in the map, but he takes down 2, does his job. They win this pretty important round to go 4-4, and they close out the final 2 rounds as well, 6-4 to the Gorillas. Once again finding some form in Search and Destroy. but Sublime is looking a little bit shaky, that has to be said. They go into the control as well. I mean, this was one of the rounds right here where all the guys run through the back, and as you can see, like, aBeZy finds himself on this crazy timing, like, somehow all the guys run through, they don't even really check it, to be honest. They kind of, like, have a glance at it, and then aBeZy finds 2 in the side, and just about gets the second kill before he gets taken down, so job certainly well done over there. Then the control, though, was very interesting. Pretty sure it was another 5 defenses on control. The final round was pretty much the only interesting one, though. LAG did certainly take it close, but you know how checkmate goes. But, well, London did show how to absolutely dominate an offensive round earlier on in the day that we did see. And then this game number 4, this was a super back and forth affair. It felt like LAG were in the driving seat for the majority of it, but then they lose this rotation over to P2, and Subliners do a great job holding on. And that's what's so exciting about the Subliners team. You really never know what you're going to get from them. Sometimes they just get completely, well, just demolished on a map, and well, at times they do stuff like this, where they make a crazy comeback. They just never know how to lose, and that's what's so impressive about this team. They can go down 0-2 in a series, they can bring the reverse sweep, they can go down, 240 to 200 in a map, when the other team only needs 1 break to close it out, and they can still manage to win that map. So very entertaining team to watch, certainly. Subliners get the job done, but big questions to be asked, I think, especially for, well, LAG you can certainly talk about, but they look pretty good, all things considered. Ravens look fantastic, honestly, but how fantastic do they look? Was it just Thieves looking very dodgy? Yes, it's their first series with this new man into the team. There's no doubt about that. Things we imagine would improve over time. But, well, there's something called a honeymoon period. People talk about it with Pro League teams. Doesn't really seem to have affected Los Angeles Thieves. And they're now 1-2 in their group with a couple of tough matches to come. I think they're still playing FaZe, right? Because they lost to New York and now they've lost to London. If they lose to FaZe, that's 1-3, which you imagine they will do. And they're going to have a very difficult time then getting out into the winners bracket for stage 2. And, well, that does not bode good things, because if they fail to make it into the winners bracket for stage 2, they then, well, let's say they don't make it top 6, maybe they come top 8 or something at the stage, then, well, questions have to be asked again. Is this team actually the solution? Have to see how they fare against, well, FaZe in a couple of days' time. Very interesting storylines, I'm sure, to dive into in the comment section below, and also in tomorrow's video and going forwards as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm to know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always, take care, and I will see you next time.